He is a former WWF champion. He is a member of the WWE Hall of Fame. He has sold out arenas from Maine to California. He has headlined shows around the world. We are proud to welcome to the WZTK studios, Sergeant Slaughter. Good morning, Sarge.
I can't hurt. As you were rise and shine, man, it's time to serve the Corps.
For those of you that thought we were faking, I think that pretty much puts that to rest. How you doing, Sarge?
I'm doing great. Doing great.
Man, it is great for you to come in here and talk to us today. I've been a big fan for a long time. I know a lot of your fans want to talk to you. If you want to call 866-482-1011, 866-482-1011. Now, I saw you on TV on Monday night. You were the guest host of Monday Night Raw on the USA Network up in Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
Yes.
How did that go?
Well, brought back a lot of fun memories as being the heel, the bad guy, and we had a lot of fun and tongue-in-cheek with the Canadians and Canada, but it was all done in fun, and I got a couple of slaps on the wrist as I left the building.
That's not what I heard. I heard you insulted the Canadians up there.
Well, that was part of the gig.
That's not hard to do.
That's what you do. Now, you mentioned the term heel, and this is great because in wrestling, we call the bad guys heels. We call the good guys baby faces or faces. And during your career, you were sort of like Ric Flair in that you could work as a bad guy or a good guy. Which one did you actually prefer?
Well, I always enjoyed being the heel, of course, being the opposite of what you are. And it's a character I created way back in the United States Marine Corps and brought it into wrestling years after I'd gotten into wrestling. I never even thought about bringing that character into wrestling until one day I was just not doing anything and started watching TV, and I watched Jack Webb, a black and white movie on TV called The D.I. And I just said, that he was able to do his character without saying one bad word, and I didn't think I could do that. Being out of the Marine Corps.
You can't say anything in the Marine Corps without saying a bad word, and there's one or two words that make the whole Corps go.
That's kind of why I left it, in my bag, because I never thought I could do it. But I just started looking in the mirror and talking without using all the profanity, and here I am today.
So you were legit in the United States Marine Corps?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. 6 years.
And you
served in Vietnam.
Really?
Oh, yes, sir.
See, now that's pretty amazing.
Yes.
Tell us about your experiences in the Marine Corps.
Well, I went in thinking that I'd get out and go to college.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to be either a football coach, a teacher, or even a minister at one time in my life. And my parents couldn't afford to send me to college, so I went in the Corps. And when I got out, my father had a roofing business. And I started helping him a little bit, and next thing I know, a friend of mine was a sports writer, and he came over to a job we were at and said he was doing a story on a pro wrestling training camp. Would I like to go along and watch it? I said, yeah. My dad said, go ahead. So the next afternoon, we went over there and saw all these guys in the ring. It was an old barn, and I looked up and saw a couple faces I recognized from high school opponents, and one of them was Ric Flair.
Oh, wow.
Ric Flair. And one was Ken Patera. And hell, I beat Ric Flair in everything. Baseball, football, wrestling.
We got to get him on the phone to verify this.
Yeah, get him on the phone right now. He went to Golden Valley, and I went to Eden Prairie. And
this is up in Minnesota,
yes,
right?
Yes, sir. And when I saw him in there, I said, if he can do that, I sure could try that. And all of a sudden I heard, is there a volunteer that would like to come up here and let us show the press here that everything's legitimate and everything hurts? And, of course, being in the Marine Corps, I knew what volunteer meant. That meant I was in trouble. So I begrudgingly went in the ring, and they put all these holes on me and made me give up and say Uncle Sam quite a few times. And finally I broke away. I said, can I defend myself here, or just going to take advantage of me? And Vern Gagne, who was a coach, said, yeah. Get down on all fours. Flair, or Rick, he didn't call him Flair. He wasn't Flair then. He was Fleer. But he said, Rick, you get on him. And Rick says, Coach, my arm's hurting a little bit. He said, get on him, So I pinned Rick. And then they put Kempatera up against me, and I got away from him, escaped from him. And then Billy Robinson, the British Empire heavyweight champion, he got on me. And as I got down on all fours, he proceeded to try to break my ankle for me. He stomped on my my ankle just like a professional wrestler would do, take advantage as a heel, you know. So I came up swinging and fighting, and as they say, in the mud, the blood, the beer. They broke us up, and Vern Gagne took me outside the barn and said, "Where'd you learn to fight like that?" And I, told him Marine Corps, and just wherever I had to. And he said, "Well, you ever thought about being a professional wrestler?" And I said, "Never thought about it, but I want a piece of that guy over there." I went after Billy Robinson again. They broke us up. He said, "No. when Chris Taylor gets out of the Olympics, he's going to go through our camp. So we want. I'd like you to come back and try out with it." And I said, "Okay." So went home and told my dad what had happened. He says, "Go for it. I don't want you to be a roofer the rest of your life, so go for it."
Now, Sarge, I've heard from some people who have been through boot camp, and I don't know if you're going to verify this or not, that the training camp for wrestling was really much tougher than boot camp.
It was. I don't think I could go through a wrestling training camp again. I was still in condition, and I saw what Rick and Patera and all those guys went through, and I trained for it for a whole year, and I was still not ready for it. So it's a rough. They weed out those who they want to find out that don't really want it. And if you really want it, you're going to gut it out. 53 of us started, and only 3 of us made it.
Now, what do you do? What is this camp about?
It's about pain. It's about pain. They make you do calisthenics, what we call free squats, and you do them until you can't. You either puke or you pass out, one or the other. And the next day, you're looking to go to the bathroom, but you got to look behind you and kind of help yourself down to the seat because you can't bend your legs. It's just incredible pain that you're in. And not only that, they run you back and forth against the ropes and the turnbuckles that you're not used to, and your body just takes a beating.
Didn't the Iron Sheik break in with you guys during that class?
He was in Ric Flair's. You wouldn't even recognize him back then. He had hair, and he was about 180 pounds. And he was coaching assistant coaching University of Minnesota wrestling team.
Okay.
And he's a guy you honestly didn't like. Right?
Didn't like him. Don't like him.
But he was a great opponent. You guys drew money for many, many years.
Oh yeah. We I came in as the bad guy, the DI from the United States Marine Corps, and I had a couple-year run. And one night, Vince McMahon and I are out having a couple of beers, and he said, "Sarge, you're the greatest bad guy I've ever seen in this business." And I said, "Well, you think I'm a good bad guy? You ought to see me as a good guy." He said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Well, you got the Iron Sheik from Iran. You got the United States Marine Corps Sergeant Slaughter. We never got any retribution. We never got anything back from Ayatollah and the killing of our Marines at the embassy and the Black Hawks going down and the hostage situation. Why don't you let me go after this guy?" And he goes, "That's not a bad idea." So went to his dad with it, and his dad said, "Absolutely not. You are not taking Sergeant Slaughter, the greatest bad guy in the professional wrestling history, and making him a good guy." And he kept explaining. So finally, about 3 weeks after I brought it up, Vince took me aside. He said, I talked Pops into it. We're going to go for it. So.
Well, Vincent Kennedy McMahon is nothing if not persistent. And now we're going to take some calls in a moment. I did want to bring up a couple of things. A couple of different, very controversial parts of your career. That was in the early 90s when Sergeant Slaughter suddenly became, at least in the storyline, an Iraqi sympathizer. And the word that I've got, and you can verify this whether it's legit or not, you actually did have to wear bulletproof vests to and from the arenas.
I did. About 4 or 5 FBI guys came to Madison Square Garden, and Vince McMahon's father was still around. He said, "I need to have a word with you." So we went into this little room, and these 4 guys came up to me and said, "Every time you wrestle, we get probably about 20 death threats and bomb threats, and we just think that it's time for you to, know about this." And I said, "Oh, really?" And so this guy brought out this box, and he gave me this vest, and it was really light. And he said, we wear them. He said, "We're all wearing them right now." And I patted them, and they had them on. He said, we would just like a precaution, like you to wear this while you're wrestling. I said, that might cut the wind off. He said, no, it'll be fine. You'll get used to it. But if you wouldn't mind, you don't have to, but we would appreciate it if you would. So I said, okay. So I started wearing that. And
How long did that last?
Till I got my country back. I heard you guys earlier about Michael Vicks and Patino and all that. The American people and the fans, they forgive you. I turned with the Iraqis. I was a sympathizer. They forgive you.
Wow.
But just keep in mind that, Michael Vick was on his way out before he got caught here. He was on his last legs.
So, Sarge, if the war...
All of a sudden, they want to make him some backup quarterback. He couldn't even... be a backup quarterback when he was playing.
But Sarge, if the war had gone on longer than 2 weeks, you might have been in trouble. You're very, very fortunate that we went over there and kicked butt as quickly as we did.
Well, when I was out of the WWE for a while because I went into G.I. Joe, and when that contract came up, Vince McMahon called me one Sunday afternoon. I was watching a NASCAR race, kind of dozing off a little bit in between the 100th lap, and the phone rings and Sarge. Yes, Vince. Well, there's only one Sarge and one Vince.
That's right.
So he said, I understand your contract's up with Hasbro. And I said, funny you should mention that, He said, you ready to go back to work? I said, yeah. He said, well, come over to my house tomorrow morning. I got an idea for you. So I get my family together, and guess what? Dad's going back.
There you go.
I told my daughters, we're going back to the WWE. Vince McMahon's a smart man. He's a genius. He's going to take G.I. Joe, the real American hero, and make him the greatest of all time. And so I get there, and Vince sits me down and says, here's my idea. I need an opponent for Hulk Hogan. And I said, you're going to make Hulk a bad guy? He goes, no, you're going to be the bad guy. I said, me?
Oh, lucky me.
So he starts telling me about the overtake of Kuwait and Ayatollah and not Ayatollah, Saddam Hussein,
right.
and blah blah blah, and the more I listened, the more I was getting pumped up for it. And he said, "Now, if you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. But I think this would really be a big step, but we have to watch ourselves,
But you didn't. Were you worried at that time that it was going to spill over and that some people were going to take this too seriously, as they did?
Oh yeah,
you were worried from the beginning.
Yeah, especially my wife.
Sarge, you're an agent now with the WWE. Could you explain to people what an agent does?
Well, actually, I'm an ambassador now.
Okay.
I was a producer. I was an agent, producer. First, I started out as a commissioner. Then I became an agent. Then I became a producer. Now I'm an ambassador. I actually go out and do talk shows like this.
Okay.
I go to Walmarts like I'm going to do tomorrow night with the blessings of Pepsi.
Very nice.
Cola's bringing me in.
And this is where? The Walmart where?
On Garden Road over here in Burlington.
On Burlington, that's exit 141 for those of you that don't know that. Very easy to see that. Again, that's going to be tomorrow night. What time?
6 to 8.
6 to 8. You're going to be able to meet Sergeant Slaughter.
However long it takes for me to meet everybody. Good. I'm going to have 8 by 10 colored photos. I'm going to be giving away autographs and headlocks and Cobra clutches.
Awesome.
Hope everybody brings their Sergeant Slaughter G.I. Joe and WWE memorabilia. I'll sign all that, and bring your cameras for your Christmas cards.
You were also
nothing
there.
like a Cobra clutch for Christmas.
Sergeant. By the way, Sergeant Slaughter is our guest here on the Brad and Britt Show. This is FM Talk 101.1 WZTK. You were also there in one of the most controversial angles, in one of the most infamous angles in wrestling history. This was Montreal, Canada, 1997. You were, I guess at that point, you were an agent with the WWE?
I was a commissioner.
You were commissioner of the WWE, and you were right there at ringside. For folks who don't know this has been famously known as the Montreal Screwjob. Bret Hart held the WWF title at that particular time.
Yes.
He was leaving in real life to go to WCW, the rival promotion, and as had been tradition in wrestling, you don't take the belt with you. You can imagine, for example, if the Green Bay Packers, after winning an NFL championship in the 60s, had said, bye, we're gone to the AFL. So it had been tradition to drop the belt. Bret, because of a personal dislike against Shawn Michaels, and because it was Remembrance Day on that particular day on the Survivor Series, did not want to drop the title. So he was told that the match was going to go a certain way. In fact, it was changed. And at one point in time, a submission move was put on him, which he thought he was going to get out of. Mm-hmm. At that point in time, the referee, Dave Hebner, said, no, ring the bell. The title was awarded to Shawn Michaels. Sarge, you were 2 feet away from that whole situation.
Yeah, didn't even know what was going on.
Vince did not tell you what was happening.
Not a word. He just before he went out there, he said, "Sarge, come with me. I want you to be at ringside with me." So I'm sitting down there watching the match, and all of a sudden, Shawn Michaels puts Bret Hart in his own move, the sharpshooter, and Vince gets up and yells for the bell, not the referee. Vince McMahon jumped up, told the bell ringer to ring the bell, and the bell ringer is like, what? He said, ring the bell. He gave up. And I don't want to say the words he was saying.
Right.
But, all of a sudden, I see the look on Shawn Michaels' face, and he comes over and goes, no, not like this, not like this. And Vince says, just take the belt, get the hell out of here.
Now, Shawn was acting a bit because he was in on this.
I don't know. I think over the years he's admitted to it because he's had to. Because he has nothing to fear anymore.
And so,
but I don't believe he was in on it. I think only Vince, his son, and the guy in the truck knew about it because they couldn't leak it out.
So all hell is breaking loose around you. The fans are going crazy. Bret Hart leaves the ring. Crazy. He grabs television monitors, starts slamming them. He spits on Vince, then goes backstage. He hits Vince right in the eye. What are you doing during this time?
Well, when I first went back, Vince took off, and as I came backstage, there's signs all over that say, Vince's office, arrows pointing, catering, backstage promo stations, and so every Vince McMahon sign that I saw, I tore it off the wall because Bret was out, like you said, having a riot. And Vince went in his room and locked the door, and pretty soon, here come Bret, and he looked right at me, and I said, I had no idea. He said, he looked me right in the eye, and he said, I believe you, Sarge, I believe you, but where's that,
So-and-so.
And so he finally found Vince's room and started banging on the door, going crazy, and finally went to his room. And so I went down to his room because Shawn Michaels in the same locker room, they happened to be there, and he was up and down in Shawn, and Shawn was crying on his hands and knees, saying, I had nothing to do with it. I knew nothing about it. I'm sorry it happened. I swear on my daughter's life. And whatever he had to do to convince Bret that he had nothing to do with it. And so I just kind of stood there, and here come Vince and his entourage. And Vince stood there and explained himself. He said, a few weeks ago, our women's champion, Medusa, went on WCW Live and dropped the title right in the trash can.
She threw it right in the trash. That's correct.
He said, not that I didn't trust you, but I couldn't take a chance.
Yeah.
And he said, I did this not only for myself and my company, but for everybody that works for us.
Well, there's a tremendous backstory. We can get into that in just a moment. I've got a lot of people who have been on hold, and I'm glad you called. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a break. We're going to do the news. We're going to do the Clark Howard Minute. When we come back, going straight to phone calls for Sergeant Slaughter. He's going to be here for the
till noon. I'll be here till noon.
He's going to be here at least for another 30 minutes.
We'll only be here till 10, but you can stay till
I'll take over for you.
866-482-1011. 866-482-1011. It is the Brad and Britt Show. Rich Brenner in for Brad Krantz. I'm Britt Whitmire, and this is FM Talk 101.1 WZTK.
Ted Hunt! My name is Drill Sergeant Slaughter. Oh, how I love the sweet smell of napalm in the morning.
8:39. Brad and Britt Show. Rich Brenner in for Brad Krantz this week. This is FM Talk 101.1 WZTK. You can meet Sergeant Slaughter tomorrow night at the Burlington Walmart. This is on Garden Road, exit 141 off of I-40. That's going to be from 6 until everybody gets their autograph signed, right, Sarge?
Exactly. I forgot to mention they're giving away 3 prizes. I don't know which one's a better prize, but we're giving away 4 tickets to a future WWE live event.
All right.
And the second prize is 2 tickets, and the third prize is a Sergeant Slaughter limited edition action figure.
What's your involvement with the new movie, with the G.I. Joe movie?
I wasn't able to be in it. Hasbro came to me, wanted me to be the spokesperson for the 25th anniversary and then go into the movie. So I went to Vince McMahon and talked to him about it. And he says, that's a great idea. Go for it. We can use the extra publicity. I said, do you think there'd be a conflict of interest with the toy companies? And he goes, that's a good thought. Call the attorneys. So I called the WWE attorneys, and about 2 weeks later, they told me I couldn't do it because Jax would sue them, and they're already in a lawsuit with him. Ugh. So I wasn't able to do it. But now that I become the ambassador, and my attorney has redone my new contract where I can now work for Hasbro, or I can do a movie if they have a sequel. I can do anything I want.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So that's working out very well. Have you seen the movie?
I have not.
Okay, well,
I'm hoping to go today.
Go and see the movie.
Yeah.
Todd from Robbins, you're on with Sergeant Slaughter. Go ahead.
Well, good morning, gentlemen. How are y'all doing?
Great.
Sarge, I have a comment and a two-part question.
Yes.
First, I wanted to say to you that you and Don and Ricky and Jay had one of the greatest feuds that this area ever saw.
Yes.
Just from beginning to end, with the way it started and how the momentum built up to the cage match in Greensboro was just incredible.
Yes.
Everything. And my question is related to that. Who was booking Mid-Atlantic at the time, and how much input did you and Don and Ricky and Jay have in what happened during the feud?
Well, Dory Funk Jr. was the booker, but Jim Crockett came to me and Don and said, I have this idea of you guys being the world champions, so I'm going to send you to Japan. So we went to Japan. We won the world heavyweight tag team championships, and we came back and got into this feud with Steamboat and Youngblood. And they just let the four of us basically, it was more Don and I.
Talk about Don Kernodle.
Don Kernodle, more the Big D, as he's known around the parts here. I'm sure he's going to be the mayor one day, or if not the next sheriff of.
If not for trying.
Yeah, and they just let us go with it, and whatever Don and I came up with is what we basically did, and it all ended up, as this gentleman just said, at the Greensboro Coliseum, and estimated that they turned 30,000 people away. At that time, they didn't have pay-per-view. They had closed circuit.
Right.
We tried to talk Jimmy Crockett into taking the building next door to the Coliseum and doing the closed circuit, and he got kind of cold feet, wasn't sure. At that time, a lot of people didn't buy pre-bought tickets. They just came, and they had people from Tennessee, Georgia, even some people from Minnesota came down, and were all turned away. 30,000 people were turned away. We had, I think, 18,000 in the building.
Todd, you had another part to your question?
Well, sort of add on to it, I know that I wasn't able to be at that particular match because, it's like, no job, no money, no match and everything. But it's like, I remember hearing, several years later that there was a huge traffic jam on I-85.
Yep. I was in
Greensboro.
I was in it. I couldn't get to the building. I finally parked my car about 3 blocks away at a convenience store, and I took my bag and I went inside and I said, "Do you guys mind if I leave my car here for a while?"
That's
and they
classic.
said, "Go ahead." So I ran up the
Slaughter's
hill.
walking down High Point Road to the Greensboro Coliseum.
That's all.
Anybody recognize you? That's the question.
Yeah, they did.
That's great. I'd love to see that someday. You're walking in downtown Charlotte. All of a sudden, to see Jake Delhomme walking down. He's going toward the stadium. I don't know. I got blocked
I got
out.
a ball game today.
Randy, you're on with Sergeant Slaughter. Go ahead. Hey, Randy, are you there?
Hey, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Sarge, God bless you for your time in the Corps, your service to us, and
Thank
also
you.
for making our lives much more enjoyable. I appreciate you.
My appreciation to everybody out there that served or is serving.
Well, I wanted to ask you, have you ever, and I'm sure you probably have, but have you ever, either before a match or during a match, gotten really mad and said to yourself, you know what, I'm really going to give him a show tonight. I'm going to beat this guy half to death. I mean, just gotten so mad at somebody you've decided you were really just going to send him to the hospital that night?
Well, I never wanted to send anybody to the hospital, but I was a little upset many nights, especially with the Iron Sheik or the Ultimate Warrior. The Ultimate Warrior is no secret. He was steroided up to the gills when it was okay to do it. if you want to say that.
Right.
And he was just in all these mood swings. We were wrestling 2 days, 2 times on a Saturday, 2 times on a Sunday, and I'd go to one event, and he would be, fine. And time we got to the evening event, he wasn't going to wrestle. So every once in a while, I'd have to sneak around the back of the building, go in the other locker room, and I'd, point at him and say, "Come here, I need to talk to you." We go in the shower, and I said, "Listen, you're either going to fight me right here in this shower room, because I'm getting paid. I came over here to get a payday. If you're not going to go out in the ring, I'm going to fight you right here." And so a couple times I had to slap him around a little bit and make some sense into him. But the Iron Sheik was just a love-hate affair between Iran and the USA.
So he was legitimately kind of nuts, because he seems pretty nuts today. The Iron Sheik does.
He is crazy, and
this was a true dislike. This wasn't theatrical.
With the storyline.
No. You guys despised each other. Right?
Well, one time he was doing a promo, and he said USA, and he spit on the ground, and I went out to him and I said, "You just spit on the ground my mother's buried in, and you're going to pay for that." And he started laughing and making fun of it. So from that point on, it was all hell broke loose. And yes, I have had that feeling. And as I was telling a few guys here, that some of my greatest matches were after the match in the locker room or in a shower or behind the building.
Well, it goes back when you talk about the Ultimate Warrior, and I want to go back to when you started out. One of the things that really, in the old days, guys took a lot of care to do, especially the guys who were the veterans, when they were breaking guys into the business, they wanted people to, make sure that you knew that you were supposed to take care of the other guy in the ring so that he could work and he could feed his family.
Exactly.
And second of all, protect the business.
That was the art. That was the art of the business, was going out there and performing and not hurting your opponent. And that was your badge of honor, that someone would say, "There goes the Sarge. He's the greatest performer of all time." And that meant that you did your job and didn't hurt anybody meaningly. You didn't try to. But there were times, when I hit some guys with chairs, or they hit me with chairs, and we busted ourselves open. And it was just, wrestling is a soap opera. It's a male soap opera with the divas in it now, but we don't hold back. When you take a chair, it's a physical soap opera. When you hit somebody with a chair, you're trying to hit him as hard as you can. And if you can bust that guy open, not so much anymore. You get fined now if you make somebody bleed. But back when I worked for Crockett's and the Vern Gagnes and all those, if you made somebody bleed, they used to say, "Red turns to green." So you would try to make your guy.
But there is an art to doing it without really physically hurting them. There's a way to draw blood, but a way also not to do any really physical.
Exactly.
Well, I just remember you and Pat Patterson bleeding all over each other.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we had one of the greatest matches of all time, along with the Iron Sheik in Madison Square Garden. The alley fight, they're still talking about that, and, of course, the boot camp with the Iron Sheik. But Pat Patterson and I had a real bloodbath. It was I lost a lot of blood. Yeah, people say, "Oh, that was a blood capsule." Well, as anybody can see by my head, there's scars there, especially the back of my head.
I don't think there's any secret about how that works in and of itself, but I wanted to know also, did you ever have any of those scary moments in the ring where you took a backdrop, you took a bump, and for maybe a couple of seconds you weren't able to feel your legs or feel your arms?
Yes.
Yeah.
Several times. One time, Wahoo McDaniels chopped me. I was standing on the apron, and he chopped me, and I couldn't grab the rope, and I fell straight back on my head. And for a few seconds, I was like, I could hear people, but I couldn't see or didn't know what was going on. Another time, I got run over by a motorcycle by a couple guys that were wrestling and were bikers, and the guy's throttle got stuck and he ran me over. And same situation, I could hear people talking. "Is he okay? Is he all right?" And I was just kind of hearing things and kind of looking over my body from above.
Do you have a sense, though, that if your opponent has been really stunned and hurt like that, is there a way that you know that they're that way? Is there a signal that you can give, like, "Don't jump on me for a couple of seconds. Just stay away from me for a second"?
If you're a pro, you sense that right away.
Because
some
you
guys don't care.
Serious
some
harm.
guys sense it, but they don't care. They want to do some serious damage and have a, the next day guys saying, "Hey, did you see what he did to that guy?" And
but that always comes back and gets you.
Oh, it gets you in the long run. Yeah.
They call that a receipt, right?
A receipt.
Yes. When someone takes liberties with you, you take. Now, you talked about Wahoo McDaniels.
Yes.
For those of you that don't know, for those people who have no idea what it's like, explain to us the sensation of taking a Wahoo McDaniels chop to the chest.
Well, nobody can see it here, but I'll show you later. There's a scar on my chest that is from Wahoo McDaniels. He chopped me so hard it made me bleed, and I had to actually have a couple stitches in my chest. And it was actually in Greensboro, North Carolina.
What was it like being in a car wreck, that sort of impact?
It was like when he hit you, it was most of the time your ears would ring like he busted your eardrums almost. It would just be like a ringing sensation, and the pain just went from your chest all the way down to your toes. And it wasn't just one. He'd do like 4 or 5 right in a row. And if you covered up or tried to block him, he'd hit you harder the next time. And sometimes he wouldn't hit you in the chest. He'd hit you in the face and break your nose.
But he wasn't supposed to be hitting that hard, right?
Oh, he hit as hard as he could, yeah.
And he wanted it back.
Yeah, he wanted it back. That's what I was saying before. It's a physical, game that we do out there. We don't hold back. When you hit a guy with a chair, you slap him with a chop across the chest, or you hit him in the face, you learn how to hit without breaking your knuckles, and it hurts just as much, or sometimes more. So the real pros out there can really make you sting and bleed without really breaking bones. And
a little Wahoo McDaniel story, too. He was the first hero that the New York Jets promoted before Joe Namath.
Yes, exactly.
They hadn't had Namath, and they had just changed from the Titans
That's correct.
to the Jets, and they had to create a hero, and he was their first hero.
Great offensive lineman.
He was like a Jim Thorpe. He was such a great athlete. The guy could play golf like he used to play with Lee Trevino, and that's how good he was.
Let's take a call from Mark McCary. Sergeant Slaughter, our guest here on the Brad and Britt Show. This is FM Talk 101.1 WZTK. Go ahead, Mark. You're on with Sarge.
Sarge.
Yes, sir.
There's 2 helmets that I recognize in this country, and that's General Patton's and yours. And I think yours should be at the Smithsonian right next to his.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you.
That's right, and I mean that, man.
Yes.
You wrestled in the NWA,
yes.
And you wore black tights and stuff, kind of like a bad guy.
Right.
And you had the U.S. Marines on it.
Yes.
When you wrestled, did you ever wrestle in Texas? Because I know Kerry Von Erich came up to the WWF when Vince bought out his father's Fritz Von Erich.
Right.
Did you ever wrestle down in Texas?
No, I never did. I wrestled in Houston a couple of times, but never for the Von Erichs. I wrestled over in Japan for the Von Erichs, was all.
Right. Did you know that Kerry, rumor is that he had a fake foot. Is that true?
Yeah, he had a motorcycle accident and wrestled most of his wrestling career with 1 foot. He had a how do you say it?
Prosthetic.
Yeah, he had a foot.
Okay.
And one night on television, it was actually a live television show, one of the wrestlers pulled it off.
Jeez.
Not knowing. Nobody knew. And you couldn't tell that he didn't limp.
Well, how did we explain that one away?
He crawled under the ring and put it back on. That's what happened. Nobody really saw it.
Now, that's good.
The guy next to you, Rich Brenner, they used to tape live at WRAL for the NWA.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Rich Tate.
Oh, no, that was Crockett Productions. That was
the NWA.
That was part of the NWA. See, the Crockett would run the territory around here.
Oh, okay.
And Sarge can tell us a little bit about this. When you got a chance, I mean, they ran separate territories, Kansas City, St. Louis, Los Angeles. Texas was divided into a couple of pieces, Florida. But when you guys had a chance to come to the Carolinas and to work for Crockett, that was kind of a big deal, wasn't it?
Yeah. I started out, as I said, in Minneapolis, Minnesota. That's where I was trained. And my first apprenticeship was either to come to Charlotte, North Carolina, or go to Vancouver, Canada. And I looked at the roster in Charlotte, and I said, that's pretty full right now. I'm going to go to Vancouver. And I got there and ended up being, the champion up there. And my first 6 months in the business, I was a world not a world champion, but a local champion, a regional champion, and just took my time. Went down into the Oregon territory, and what we call territories, and then I ended up back in Minneapolis for a short while. Went to Louisiana, and finally it was time to go to the Crockett Promotions, and I went down there. And my goal, as every goal in any wrestler's mind, is to be in Madison Square Garden, so you got to go to the WWE. So that was the major league. There was like 3 major leagues: Minneapolis, Charlotte, and New York. And at that time, they all were friends. They were all good neighbors to each other.
Right.
And it was all regional, and they exchanged wrestlers, just like baseball. And
you made it to the majors of all 3.
And then, yes, I finally made it there.
To the top.
I can't tell you the feeling there is when you're in the middle of Madison Square Garden under those lights, and those people are screaming and hollering for you. I heard you earlier talking about, fans, Philadelphia fans are tough on you, and New York fans are tough on you. They're tough on their own players. Even the opponents get a hard time, but even their own players get. But that gives you the adrenaline to do better. That's why Michael Vick, if he does sign with somebody, won't have any problem, because he's going to be out there trying to. He's not going to hear those people. You don't hear them. You ground it out. If anybody's ever saw the movie For the Love of the Game, with Kevin Costner, every time he went into his on the pitcher's mound, he went into a zone. And I try to explain that to wrestlers. When you get in the ring, get into that zone. You got to zone the people out and play your game. And that's what happens.
Well, you've been a tremendous guest with us today. We want to remind everybody Sarge is going to be at the Walmart in Burlington that's on Garden Road. That's just off of exit 141 in Burlington tomorrow night.
Drinking lots of Pepsi, too.
Lots of Pepsi, that's right. They're sponsoring him. You're going to be starting at 6, signing autographs until he gets it done. WWE SummerSlam is coming up in 10 days.
Yes,
live on pay-per-view
for that.
Channel 200 on Time Warner Cable, 202 for high def, and of course the G.I. Joe movie is out as well.
Yes, and I'm really having a great time, and please have me back, because just went too fast. And
absolutely.
There's a lot of people that have a lot of questions, and I'm not afraid to answer them.
You've been great. Give us a little sign off, Sergeant Slaughter style here.
All right, maggots. This is Sergeant Slaughter. I don't want to hear any bad talk about my boys here on 101.1, or I'll have to come looking for you. No further questions. Carry on, and you're dismissed. Don't change that dial, maggots. And that's an order.